All right, this is the 2019 Modern Market Omnium Day 2 fixed gear crit race. We are getting our quarter lap lead out from a Nissan GTR. We're out at the Douglas County Emergency Vehicle Operations Center track. It's a new track. I don't know how long ago they got it built, but it's in perfect shape. First time we've ever been racing on it. Really great facility. This is a 1.3 mile course. Supposedly only has about 45 feet of elevation each lap. Uh, this is supposed to be a 40-minute ride, but they we got a little behind on schedule. This is toward the end of the day. It's after 5:15 in the afternoon, so we're gonna cut this a little bit short, 35 minutes or so. As we're coming around this corner here, we're headed into the back stretch, which all day has had a pretty fierce headwind all up the back stretch here, but it was particularly bad this first lap or two. We're actually getting a bit sandblasted. We were all wondering if the GTR was actually blowing gravel at us that far back, but then we realized that all that dust you see over to the right side is just blowing in at us at 25 mile an hour. Luckily, it did not stay that bad the entire race, but first lap we were all thinking it was really going to suck. So as I said, this is a fixed gear race. We're all riding brakeless. I'm running a 48 chain ring with a 14 tooth rear cog. Coming around this corner is where you get most of the elevation gain for each lap. So dropping down to 80 RPM or so. The fun thing with the fixed gear is your cadence basically equals your speed. So 90 cadence, 24 miles an hour. So who we've got in the lead here, we've got I think Josh Tyrell of State Bicycles is on the front right this minute, followed by Scott Piersfeld, also of State Bicycles. Right in front of me, you've got Adam Pashon of Reynolds Roofing race team. We just crossed through the finish line. It's not actually the start finish because we started over off to the side and roll into the track right at this intersection here. But that's one lap in. Heart rate's up to 149. That's about what I average for the race. $30 miles an hour, 110, 115 cadence through that section. A lot of crosswind here. You want to be sitting toward the right side of the track, in behind somebody if you can. I'm letting a bit of a gap open up there by accident and having to work to get back up to him. As you can see, the guys get a little bit squirrely as we come around that corner and into that wind. The audio in the video is pretty terrible. It's just all wind through here. And being as this is my fourth race of the weekend, I'm also sitting there muttering to myself out loud quite a lot about how much discomfort I may be in trying to hang on. These guys are much more fit than me for sure. The only reason I'm able to hang on this long is because of this massive headwind. It's just really tough for them to get away when I can sit in their draft, especially Josh. He's a pretty big guy, provides a nice draft. As we go up this hill here, I'm trying to go through in the rotation, but all that ends up happening is I end up letting a gap open up as Josh goes off. So I basically just was only messing up the rotation for these guys. Being as I'm at 155 and barely hanging on when they make any acceleration, I don't imagine I'm going to be hanging on for much longer. As the announcer was just saying, it's just the 4 of us on the lead at this point, but now it's just the 3 of them on the lead. They accelerate, I think they're all running slightly bigger gear than me maybe, but either way, I'm up to 157 beats a minute, and they're walking away from me. Scott's even opened up a bit of a gap off the other 2, but I can see that I'm not going to be able to pull them back before the headwind section, which means I'm going to be on my own until I let people from behind come up. So as you can see, I'm dropped down to 75 RPM, 20 miles an hour, letting my heart rate come down, looking over my shoulder, waiting to see where the next set of wheels might be. Not going too easy, but definitely not trying to solo away for a while here, so definitely getting some recovery, especially now that I'm in the headwind section. I'm just patiently waiting to jump back in with another group. And there we go, we got a couple more guys. Jump on their wheel. Heart rate's not looking that high, but I'm definitely feeling pretty fatigued at this point in the weekend. Yeah. Primal Rider there was just dropping back to ask if I was ready to pull yet, if I could contribute to our group here, and as you can hear me hacking a lung out in the background, I was being quite honest, and I told him I was in no shape to be pulling at this point, so as you'll see, I end up just trying to recover, hang on their wheels for at least another full lap before I'm able to contribute at all to our effort. We're not making any ground up on the guys from State and Adam Pashon out front, but we're trying to maintain our position and stay away from the rest of the guys in the race. Honestly, a pretty uneventful race as we're just sitting in this three-man group for the majority of it. Not a whole lot going on, but figured I'd recorded it. I might as well post it. A couple of the guys seem to have some interest in seeing the footage, so this is not exactly your typical fixed gear crit like a Red Hook or something where there is a much more technical course, lots of people on the sidelines cheering, a lot bigger field typically, so a little less interesting, but still a good race for sure. Because of the direction of the headwind for all the races today, there really was almost no place on the course that was really easy. Anytime, you were rolling down grade, you were pushing against headwind typically. Through here, you've got a bit of tailwind, but you're also getting in all of the elevation of the course. So it's felt like a pretty steady effort the whole time, and whether fixed gear or during the Cat 5 crit. You only got to recover when you made a spot where you could recover. As you can see, I've been sucking the wheels of these two guys for well over a lap, and my heart rate is still sitting up around 150, which might seem very low for many people, but that's actually fairly high for me. I'll max out at maybe 158 during this race, something like that. Actually, I just lapped one of the Modern Market team racers who was out there giving it a go on a single speed bike just to see what it was like, I think. And once he got popped off the group with this headwind, it's definitely a lot of work to get around that course on your own, I'm sure. I believe that I was trying to say at that point, I was letting the rider ahead of me know that I'd be willing to pull once we got to the hill here. But with the wind, I don't think he heard me. Either way, the primal guy came around me and he did the pulling, so it was enough work just to stay on his wheel as it was. That's me again stating that I believe I'm just about recovered enough to finally be able to contribute a little bit with some pulls. They were super cool about it. They knew they were better off letting me recover as long as I needed to and possibly contribute than stick me out in front and then watch me drop off and have a two-man group again. And looks like my heart rate just tanked. Heart rate strap is clearly not working. There's zero possibility I'm running a 120 beats a minute. So that's now irrelevant at this point. That was again me trying to verbally tell them where I felt it was most appropriate for me to be able to contribute to the group. As we're rolling down this hill, I'm a little bit heavier. Felt like it would be a more advantageous for me to put in the effort there. Looks like the heart rate might be back. 142 is sounds pretty low, but possibly. I'm off the front, doing a not a great effort. 25 miles an hour up through here, coming into the corner. Doing what I can, trying to contribute. For anyone watching who isn't familiar with these type of races, these type of bikes, so when I say fixed gear, it's like it sounds. The gear doesn't freewheel. These are track bicycles, typically ridden on a velodrome. But so as long as the wheels are turning, the pedals are turning, so there is no coasting, and there also is no brakes, so you just slow down with your legs, or skid if you want. Neither one of those is really necessary in this particular race. There's not really any point where you're purposely slowing down. Back up to 153 beats a minute. You can hear me huffing and puffing back there. On these bikes, when being as you only have one gear, choosing what gear ratio you go with is obviously pretty important. What I'm running, a 4814, is fairly standard size to be going with in a race, but I screwed up yesterday's race and actually rode a 4816, which made it a little bit easier to get up the hill for me and tore up my legs a little bit less coming into these 2 days or 2 races today, but made it impossible for me to stay anywhere near the front. I would spin out immediately. So no video footage of yesterday's race because it's basically just me time trialing in the middle of the mid-pack, basically. No one visible in front, no one visible behind, just chugging along for 40 minutes. Completely uneventful. Talking with the rider in blue there after the race. Guess that tri-spoke that he's got on the front of that bike was quite a handful with the crosswind through here. Not the ideal wheel choice for strong winds. You can see on the left there where you're coming up on a rider. But I'm going to venture a guess that that's actually going to be a lap rider, not any of the three out front who might have been popped. Like I said, most of what's going on the microphone is either wind noise or me huffing and puffing, trying not to die. Pretty much nothing aero about my bike setup for these races. Running stock standard Mavic Ellipse wheels, pretty shallow section alloy wheels, all round tubing on my Cannondale CAD 10 track bike. It's always nice to get a little head of speed built up toward the end of the back stretch here on these fixed gear bikes, just to keep up the momentum and get us up over the hill without having to stand the entire time. Momentum is always your friend, but fixed gear riding, it's even more important. For this race, between the track being non-technical, it having very little elevation gain, and it being windy out there, were all basically things that favored a larger rider. So I really have no complaints. Kind of levels it out between me and the lighter guys. Definitely gives me the advantage out in the wind. As you can see there, the lap rider we saw a little earlier is still hanging on in our group. Like I said, I mean, being out there solo is a ton more work. So he's pretty grateful to be catching a draft off us and getting a little pull around the course. for me, this is really just survival out there. Just trying to stick with this group. I've actually already assured these two riders that I would not come around to them and try to steal a position on the final lap if I'm even still there on the final lap. Pretty non-serious race at this point. No one here is making any, even thinking about attempting an attack. For one, it's so wide open on a fixed gear bike. Making an effective attack would be really difficult, but also with the wind, it's going to be nearly impossible to get away from a couple other riders. Like most every lap, we get up to around 30 on the back stretch there on the downhill and just try to maintain that speed as long as we can, rolling into the uphill. So this is final lap, and I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm going to let these guys finish ahead of me because they're dropping me like a bad habit. I'm pretty well toast. Just making sure I keep 6th place secured and getting to the finish line here. That's a race. 6th place for me. Four crits done. One good weekend of racing.